Makhosonke Buthelezi, the spokesperson for the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time, Mr. Buthelezi. It's been, of course, a while now, and there's been quite a number of developments in Stilfontein since the last time you and I spoke. Let's talk about the department's reaction to just the latest developments.
Well, we support the efforts to retrieve the miners by the mine rescue services, and we believe that it will be a safe process. And we understand that people are frustrated because they are taking long. The mine rescue services is taking long with the process, but they want to make sure that all risk assessment is performed, and they want to make sure that everyone who is still underground is brought to the surface safely, and they can be able then to be processed properly.
When one looks at, the figures that are bandied about when it comes to derelict as well as ownerless mines in South Africa, some people still put the figure at around 6,000. Are you able to tell us just how many derelict and ownerless mines we have in South Africa?
So let me explain. So the 6,100, it is a total number of derelict and ownerless mines across the commodities. It could be gold, it could be asbestos, it could be diamond, right? That's the total number of derelict and ownerless mines. And then of those, you have 1,170 shafts, derelict and ownerless shafts. And those are the ones that we have a program of closing them.
And let's look at the policy. The artisanal and small-scale mining policy of 2022, and a number of people not, sure about the details thereof. And when one looks at it, for example, there are, types of permits that are proposed there: an artisanal mining permit, a small-scale mining permit. One would ask, what's the difference?
So that is why even the policy says we should clearly define the two, the artisanal and the small-scale. Artisanal, if you look at them, they use pick and shovel to mine, right? It is as rudimentary and as basic as that. That's your artisanal. And then your small scale now, they are a step higher. It's those that have tools. They will have the front end loader, as an example that you just saw now. They have a certain degree of machination in their operations. So that is the difference, basically.
And then another question would be, so if, for example, these licenses, right, are then granted, is it to anybody who applies?
Anybody, as in whether it's South African or it's solely for South African citizens. It will be South African citizens, yes.
And when it comes then to, we've seen what has taken place around, the safety concerns. You listen to some of the people in Stilfontein, for example, but even not only that, over time, people saying that when it comes to skills training for, just this type of mining activity, it's important to put it in place in order to address some of the safety concerns. When you read the policy as well, it speaks about this issue, but there are some viewers who are watching tonight to say that if you formalize this, how do you also begin to address this issue, this very huge issue of safety?
Yeah, that is precisely why we have this training and non-financial support as part of the proposals in the policy. It is to train people in the technical aspects of running a mine, and issues of mine health and safety are part of that, so that these artisanal and small-scale miners, once they start to operate, they become aware of mine health and safety issues, and they do so in a responsible manner and try as far as possible to minimize incidents and fatalities.
I'm going to get to more of that in just a moment, but I want to stay with something that you said. So when they are being taught all of this, does it also address the issue of taxes and royalties as well?
It will, in the policy, yes, it will. And in fact, if you look at the policy, it even proposes some certain, I would say, not the word is skipping me, but some leniency when it comes to small scale mining. It's basically looking at not taxing them the same as large miners. So there are those proposals, because what you want to do ultimately is not for them to remain as small scale and artisanal miners. You want them to graduate and grow. And because as they do so, they are able to even employ more people. So that is why you don't want to tax them heavily, so that they can be able to reinvest in the business and be able to grow.
And one of the clauses, as I was reading the policy, is that it can be reviewed when the need arises. So given the recent developments in recent years, would you say there has been a need to do this?
So what is happening now with the policy is that we are reviewing currently the MPRDA, and some of the proposals that are in the policy are going to be considered and will find a way in the MPRDA as we review it. So I think in the long run, once the MPRDA addresses some of the basic tenets of the policy, then you have all the aspirations of the policy being embedded within the revised MPRDA.
As a final question then, we've seen, destruction to, infrastructure and all of that, where some of these illegal operations are taking place. When you look at it from a department's point of view, what would you say is the extent of the damage when it comes to infrastructure and the impact this has had on communities?
It's difficult to really quantify it in real terms, because what we know is what we read in the news and is what has been reported, because we have not really done an exercise to quantify the damage. But looking at the reports and all of that, you can see that there's extensive damage that has been done. I mean, when I go home, I drive on a road that had to be rehabilitated. It sank because of illegal mining that has happened. So you can really see that there is extensive damage that is being done by illegal mining.
Would you be engaging on such an exercise to quantify it at some point?
I think along the way, although it doesn't fall, it is not a mandate, but it's something that we could look at.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Buthelezi, for your time and just talking to us about this policy, because there has been a lot of talk around it, but also just some clarification when it comes to, the possibilities here and what could then be different. But thank you. Appreciate your time. That was Makhosonke Buthelezi, spokesperson for the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources.